Okay. All right, let's begin. We're on page 49b, and we had learned on Friday about the two ways of understanding the shisin. If it's shisin are these area below the altar, below the mizbeach, where the wine libations and the water libations would fall to. And the one way of understanding it is it would go all the way to the depths, the Tahoim. The other way of understanding it was it wouldn't go really too far. It would just go down to the floor, on the floor, and it actually it would harden over there and become some type of sludge, and it would be in a little gap that's between the altar. There was a gap between the altar and the ramp, and that would be where the wine would end up staying and until it would get cleaned out and it would turn into some type of sludge. And this was the opinion of Rabbi Elazar Reb Tzadok. Now, Rabbi Elazar Reb Tzadok, he calls it a lul katan. There was this gap. It was a hole in between the ramp and the mizbeach and the altar. Once every 70 years, they would clean it out. It doesn't exactly tell us how it was done. Did they actually fit? Did the young koyanim fit inside it, or did they use some type of utensils or different items that would be able to help them clean it out? But somehow the Pirchei Kohuna, the young Koyanim, would clean out that area. And Rabbi Elazar Reb Tzadok then says that they would then burn it b'kedusha. Now, why did it have to be burned b'kedusha? So he brings a pasuk. It had to be burned in a holy place. It says, "B'kodesh haseich nesech sheichar Hashem." Has to be the libation has to be done in the kodesh, a holy place, and it's a nesech sheichar Hashem. It's a libation of intoxicating drink for Hashem. So, but it doesn't really say so clearly, or it doesn't say at all in that pasuk about the burning. But the Gemara says, oh, just like the libation is in holiness, also the burning has to be in holiness. The only thing is the pasuk doesn't say anything about the burning. So the Gemara says, my mashma, where is it mashma? Where do you see that? Anything about the burning, that the burning has to be in holy? You can't just take it. Why don't you take it outside of the courtyard and burn it there? It has to be in the courtyard. You have to burn this sludge of the leftover, the wine, whatever's left after it hardens. You have to burn it in a holy place. Where does it say that in the pasuk? The libation is b'kodesh. It doesn't say the burning. So the Gemara says, yeah, it's not. It doesn't say it in the pasuk, but it's a gzeirus shava. Ravina says it's a gzeirus shava kodesh. It talks about nicer. It says kodesh, and it says you got to burn the nicer in the fire. Here also it says the word kodesh. B'kodesh hasech. So we understand that means burning. That basically there's a burning that's done to the whatever's left. And there seems to be a question here: is it a mitzvah to burn it, or if you're going to burn it, you got to burn it in kedusha? In other words, the concept of burning. The question is, how far do we take it? We're learning something from Nicer. Nicer, we know there's a mitzvah to burn. Here also, there's a concept of burning by the wine. But is it a obligation that all the wine has to be burned? Or is it when you're going to get rid of it, how do you get rid of it? By burning it. In other words, it's unclear, because after all, we're saying that it was only done once every 70 years. So if we're saying it was only done once every 70 years, it does not sound like it's this major mitzvah to actually burn it. Maybe you could say that, but you could say also that maybe it's not a mitzvah to get rid of it. But when you are going to get rid of it, then you got to burn it. Nicer when you get rid of it. How do you do it? You burn it. And this, when you get rid of it, you burn it. But it's not like it's not allowed to be there. It's when it fills up, when it gets too much, you could. Yeah, the mitzvah is, or then you would be obligated. How do you get rid of it? Burning it. Now, how do you have to burn it? So on that, we say it has to be done in a holy place, b'makom kodesh, by the mizbeach. It's called the azara, the courtyard of the mizbeach, the courtyard where the mizbeach is, where the altar is. That's where it has to be done. So that's the conclusion, sort of this little piece. But then the Gemara says we have a Mishnah, and the Gemara says, who does this Mishnah follow? Does it follow the rabbis, or does it follow Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok? Again, the rabbis held that the wine would go all the way down to the Tohaim, to the depths. Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok had this innovative understanding that the wine stayed where it was, and somewhere next to the altar, in between, in this hole over there, in between the ramp and the altar, and it didn't go down to the Tohaim. So you have this argument, Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok and the other opinions and the rabbis. According to Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok, you had to clean it out. According to the rabbis, it goes all the way down to the Tohaim. You didn't clean it out ever. There was no cleaning out. It was once it went there, it was over. So now we have a Mishnah. The Mishnah says that Mishnah says, well, let's learn it inside. So on page 49b, fourth line on page 49b, Keman Ozla, Keman, the last word on the line, fourth line, 49b. Keman Ozla Hadatanya. Who does it go? Hadatanan. Who does it go like this that we learned in a Mishnah in Me'ilah? Nesachim, the libations, betchila moyel b'hem. In the beginning, you're moyel. There's a Me'ilah. If you to benefit from them, you could transgress the prohibition of Me'ilah. In other words, it's poured into a holy vessel. It becomes holy. And then you benefit from it. That would be considered a prohibition of Me'ilah. If you benefit b'shaygig, you'd have to pay the keren, the chaymesh, and bring the korban Me'ilah. It's called an asham Me'ilais. So you'd have to bring, if there's Me'ilah, then you would transgress Me'ilah. So in the beginning, there's Me'ilah. The beginning, when you make this Niso Chayayin, when the wine was poured into the holy vessel for the purpose of Nesachim, purpose of libations. So there's a din of Me'ilah, Moyalin Bahem. There's a prohibition of Me'ilah, and it's possible to do Me'ilah. Yardu l'shisin ein Moyalin Bahem. Once it goes into the shisin, into this area, this hollow area, then there's ein Moyalin Bahem, there's no Me'ilah. And the understanding is that it no longer is fulfilling a role of holy things. It no longer has that role. It's already been accomplished. The mitzvah was done already. And the Rashi uses the term ein bahem shum tzorech gavoya. They don't have any need for Hashem. In other words, it's already done. Went into the shisin. You've done what you needed to. The mitzvah is basically over. And once the mitzvah is over with it, you're not going to transgress Me'ilah if you benefit from it. So the Gemara asks, that's the Mishnah. The Gemara asks, Leima Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok. It sounds like this Mishnah is a das yochid. It's opinion of one opinion, Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok. Di Rabbanan, because if you want to say it's the rabbis, hanachsu lahu l'tohaim. It already went down to the Tohaim. it went down to the depths, you wouldn't be able to use it and benefit from it. The only opinion that's possible to benefit from it is Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok. Why? Because according to Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok, the sludge would stay visible and accessible to the people who are there in the Beis Hamikdash. And you could benefit, it's possible to benefit from. According to the rabbis, the scenario, the practical side of it, it's not possible to benefit from it. It went down to you poured it down, it goes all the way down to the depths. Right? How you now going to benefit from it? So from a practical perspective, it has to fit like Rebbe Elazar bar Tzadok. Possible for you to benefit from. You could take it and you could benefit, maybe. Of course, it's not allowed, but it's possible to do it. As the Mishnah says, that in a case where you already went, l'shis ein mayalin b'hem. No, you fulfilled your mitzvah. There's no me'ilah, but it's possible to benefit. In other words, we need to figure out according to who it's positive the case talking about. Then we'll figure out the halacha. The Gemara initially says this must go like Rebbe Elazar. Okay, again, Moshe, thank you. So this goes according to Rebbe Elazar bar Tzadok. That's what the Gemara thinks. Because according to the rabbis, it already went down to the Tahaim, Nachsaluhu L'Tahaim. It went down to the Tahaim. So it went down to the Tahaim, you ain't going to find some way to benefit from. So the Gemara answers that no, afilu tema rabbanon. You could even say that it fits according to the rabbis. And nevertheless, it's possible to say that once you poured it down, there's no me'ilah, and you could benefit from it. It's possible. How would that case be? How do you get it? Its answer is b'de'iklat. That you somehow attached the vessel in the shisin and you received it. You were like from the word koilet or arei miklat. It's a shelter. You sort of created a shelter for the wine libation that it wouldn't fall all the way down to the depths, but you caught it before by putting a vessel there. And by putting a vessel there, you're able to benefit from it. And why would that be? The reason that would be is because seemingly you've already accomplished the mitzvah that you were supposed to by pouring it down. It didn't go to the depths yet because you caught it before, but you did pour it. And once you did your mitzvah with it, the mitzvah is done. The fact that it's supposed to go to the depths maybe is not intrinsically connected to the mitzvah. The shisin had a depth went all the way down to the depths, but your mitzvah is by pouring it. You poured it down, it went, it got caught. But you did your mitzvah. There's no more me'ilah. So that's what it would seem. If you want to explain the Mishnah according to the rabbis, you would say that it was iklat, and you were able to, you caught it by this vessel that you stuck in there in the shisin. Then comes the Gemara and says there's another way of saying, another version of this. The Ikadamri, some say this Gemara a little differently. Lema Rabbanan hi v'loi Rebbe Elazar bar Tzadok. Let's say that this follows the Rabbanan, the rabbis. It can't follow Rebbe Elazar bar Tzadok. Di Rebbe Elazar bar Tzadok. Di Rebbe Elazar akati b'sayu kaimi. If you want to say that this Mishnah fits according to Rebbe Elazar bar Tzadok, you have a problem. Because according to Rebbe Elazar bar Tzadok, you need to burn the nesachim. You need to burn these libations, and until you burn it, you didn't fulfill the mitzvah yet completely. And so according to Rabbi Elazar Bar Tzadok, how could you say there's no Me'ilah? It didn't get burned yet. According to the rabbis, it goes all the way down to the Tohaim. According to Rabbi Elazar Bar Tzadok, so according to the rabbis, it goes down to the Tohaim. There's no burning. So once you poured it in, you did your mitzvah. Here, you do have a continuation mitzvah, which is that it's got to end up being burned, according to Rabbi Elazar Bar Tzadok. So, would you be allowed to benefit from it? No. So it can't be according to Rabbi Elazar Bar Tzadok. It has to be according to the rabbis that according to the rabbis, you finished your mitzvah with it, and if you benefit from it, it's no problem. So the Gemara concludes and says that not necessarily. Well, what does that mean? Afilu tema Rabbi Elazar. You could even say that the Mishnah and Me'ilah fits with Rabbi Elazar. But there's nothing that the mitzvah was already done and you would have Me'ilah. What does that mean? That means that this case where you're going to pour the libations and the libations are going to go onto the altar and they're not going to the Tohaim, and you're going to end up burning it later within the next 70 years. But nevertheless, you did the mitzvah of libation. Okay, there's a concept of burning it. But the mitzvah was done with it. What is this? This was holy for a libation. You put it in a holy vessel. It was poured. You did the mitzvah of libation. And the Mishnah could fit with Rabbi Elazar Bar Tzadok and say, you know what? If you benefit from it now, you did not transgress Me'ilah. Is there a mitzvah to burn it? Yeah. But it's not that but it's not, there's no Me'ilah now. It's not that it's holy now. It's holy to the extent that there's, in other words, you could say it's holy even, but the mitzvah was done with it. Still holy. You want to burn it in a holy place? Okay, you have to burn it. You want to burn it in a holy place because it's still holy. But was the mitzvah done with it? The mitzvah was done with it. Okay, so that's the two versions of this Mishnah, of how to learn this Mishnah. Now comes the next Gemara. I'm a Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish says, Bizman shemenaschen yayin al gabe mizbeach, the time that they poured the wine on top of the mizbeach, or yupoikin as a shisin, they would stop up the shisin is the tunnel. They would stop up this hole, this hole that the libation would normally pour it down, and instead it would pile up on the altar. So it wouldn't go down. Again, Rashi's shot. And the two bowls had spouts, and the spouts would have holes that the wine would spill out of. And then it would fall into the shisin, a pipe, a hole that was nearby on the altar. Now, Reish Lakish comes along and says, this was not really done as you think, in a very smooth way, where you would pour into the bowl, and the wine and the water would then pour right into the hole. No. Reish Lakish comes along and says, no. We stop up the hole that's below. So it didn't pour into the hole. It was stopped up. And because it was stopped up, what happened was it would actually look like the Mizbeach is filled with this wine. And and so they stopped up that the hole in order that the mizbeach would get full. To fulfill what it says in the pasuk that it should be poured by kodesh in the holies. Nesech sheichar l'Hashem, a libation of sheichar to Hashem. Now, what does sheichar mean? So the simple meaning is an intoxicating drink. But here we're going to say sheichar could mean other things. It looks satisfied. It looks like shikrus. So there's other meanings of the word sheichar. So now comes the Gemara and says, "My mashma." How do you see from this that they would be menasech on the mizbeach? They would pour on the mizbeach the wine, and it would be stopped up, and it would stay. Where do you see that in the puzzle? Couldn't pour the wine. So it says, "My mashma." Amar Papa sheichar lashon shasiya lashon sevia lashon shechrus. Sheichar has three meanings. So nesach sheichar is not what you think it is. That's intoxicating drink. It means that it's a nesach of drinking. A libation that looks like someone's drinking and they're satisfied. Number two, it looks like it's a lashon sevia. Well, first one is sevia, drinking. The second one is satisfied. Number three is a lashon of shikrus, which means intoxicating and intoxicating. Now, if so, what was the goal here? The goal was that the mizbeach should look like it's satisfied. Sevilla should be satisfied. How did it look satisfied? It was full. It looked pretty satisfied. You know, when you have when the mizbeach is filled with water on the top, so with wine, it looks like you're pretty much satisfied. So so that's the understanding of Reish Lakish, that they had to stop up the shisin. Now, how does Tosfos learn this Gemara? Tosfos understood that there was bowls that had holes right in the bowl straight down. It didn't have a spout. It had a hole right in the bowl, and that hole went straight down. So where did they block up the shisin? So according to the understanding of Tosfos, commentaries talk about how Tosfos learns this. So it seems that the top part of the shisin had some type of there was a stopper that allowed the wine libations to and the water that somehow that it would stay there in the top of the mizbeach. It would stay, not the top of the mizbeach, on the top part of the shisin had, in other words, it was inside the hole, but it was the top part of the long hole, the long pipe. That's what the understanding is. The other understanding is that according to Tosfos, they would actually make a stopper in the bowl, and they would stop up the bowl, and then it would just pour on top of the bowl. So that's it has to look like the throat is filled with this drink. The two understandings in Tosfos. We have one understanding in Rashi that the ultimately it looked like Hashem was being well, the libations were abundant, so to speak. Looked like Hashem had abundant libations. the Papa learned something from this idea that when a person drinks wine, a person is satisfied from wine. So it says, "Migroine sava," that the main satisfaction is from filling one's mouth and his groinai, his congestion. And so that's it would fill his throat. In other words, being satisfied comes from filling your throat with a substantial amount of wine. Meaning, if you take small sips, you won't get that satisfaction. You need to take a large gulp. I don't know how it works at wine tasting events. Was that what they do they promote that as well? I don't know. I don't know if today the big wine, the wine feinschmeckers, the ones who know wine very well.
You don't take
big gulps.
No.
Only small sips.
Only small sips.
Really? So the Gemara seems to have another different understanding of what when you really want to.
You'd have to take small sips, otherwise you'd be drunk after taking large gulps of a bunch of different wines. You're taking small sips of a variety. You couldn't take big
You're
gulps.
saying because the wine tasting events, you're drinking so much, you don't have a choice. But really, maybe you should be drinking big gulps if it was just one. If you weren't at the wine tasting event and you just want to enjoy a bottle of wine, then you do take big sips. Maybe, I don't know. We have to ask the experts.
You'll be able to drive home. You'll be able to drive home.
Well, our Gemara offers a suggestion that if you want to get a good drink of wine and you want to get the most out of your buck, out of your wine, take big gulps. And then you'll really get satisfied from the wine. Otherwise, you won't really get satisfied. It'll take a lot of sips. You won't really get satisfied. So that's the understanding based on the way the Mizbeach, what happened with the Mizbeach. It was like all about a big gulp. So Rava comes along and along the same lines, and he says, if you don't have a lot of wine and you want to get the most out of your wine, like a tzurba me'rabbanan, a scholar, that he doesn't have a lot of wine, and he wants to be satisfied from the little wine in his possession, ligama gemue, he should take a large gulp, and that's the main satisfaction of wine, filling your mouth and your throat. And then it says, Rava akosa de birkasa agmue agma gamue. When he would drink the kais, the wine for a kaishal bracha, which is like you make birkas hamazon on wine, he would take a big sip, which showed chibuv mitzvah. And here Mordechai had asked us a question when we learned this the first time around. That there's a Gemara in Beya where it says, if you drink the cup in one shot, it looks like you're the term is a gargaron, some type of a grubbe, grubbe jung, like you're looking a little non-menschlich. Looks like you're over indulging.
You're guzzling.
Guzzling. That's a better translation. Thank you. Guzzling. And so it sounds like you're not supposed to do this. So the answer is that this is only by a koshel bracha. It says Rava by koshel bracha he drank it b'basachas. It showed the chibub mitzvah. But under normal circumstances, don't guzzle. So it sounds like maybe somewhere in the middle is okay, like because the other pieces of Gemara sound kisava, like you should sort of like take a large gulp. So it sounds a large gulp maybe, but not in one shot. Don't just guzzle it all in one shot. Okay. So now comes the next piece of Gemara. Again, this is Gemara is more of a Agadata. Has some interesting stuff here. Darash Rava darshaned. He expounded on the pasuk that we already started expounding upon. We talked about the shisim based on a pasuk in Shir Hashirim. Chamuke yerechayech, the hidden your hidden thighs are like jewelry, we translated it as the shisin, which are hidden under the mizbeach. They are on the side, and they are like chalolim. We translated not jewelry, but they're hollow, and it's ma'aseh yadayim, and it's the work of Hashem. That was our translation. That it was created in the 6 days of creation. So the beginning of the pasuk starts off with Mayafu Pa'amoyech Bana Olim Bas Nediv. How beautiful are your steps in your shoes, the daughter of the generous one. And then it continues into the Chamuke Yerechayech, into the rest of the pasuk that we expounded upon. So Rava wants to understand this pasuk. So he says, Darash Rava expounds, what does it mean? Mayafu Pa'amoyech Bana Olim Bas Nediv. What does it mean about the beauty of your steps, in the olim shoes, Bas Nadiv, the daughter of a generous one? Mayafu pa'maiseyem shal Yisrael. How beautiful are your steps of the Yidden.
How do you spell Hatzon? How do you spell Hatzon?
Just 1 second. Let's mute everyone here.
What? H-A-T.
Mother.
So how beautiful are your legs or are your steps? Either one, there are different pshatim here. If the could mean steps, could mean legs. So it means how beautiful are your steps or your legs.
It says how beautiful are the feet.
Are your feet, excuse me. Okay. So it either means feet or means steps. So it's how beautiful are your feet, Shal Yisrael of the Yidden, B'shash Oilon the Regal, when they go up to be Oila Regal. So Bana Olim means when you go up, doesn't mean shoes. It's the word Oila. Or another way of expounding on it would be like B'nei Oilim, the people who go up. Or you could learn shoes maybe also. There are some other pshatim, but the simple understanding is that it's talking about the Bana Olim. Bana Olim means that it refers to being Oila Regal. Bas Nediv, the Yidden, the Klal Yisrael, that are the daughter of Nediv, the generous one. Who is that? Avram Avinu. Bitoy shal Avram Avinu shenikra Nediv. He's called the Nediv. Shenemar, as it says, Nediv Yamim Naasafu, the generous ones, or the
Here it translates it as
contributing
prince.
ones.
It says the prince.
Okay. Well, Nidava normally means a contribution. And it seems that the Rashi translates it, Nodvoi Liboy. His heart made him generous to makir as boyroi, to recognize his creator. And it's referring to, in Tehillim, the Gerim, the converts, are called the Nedive Amim, the nation, the Nedivim of the nations, the generous ones of the nations who have committed themselves to recognize Hashem, the Creator, and accept upon themselves the mitzvahs. And they've joined Klal Yisrael, and they're called the Am Alakei Avraham. They're called the nation who's the God of Avram. So Avram is so when it uses the term Nadiv, the daughter of Nadiv, we're connecting it with the pasuk where it mentions the nations are Nadivim, and they're called the nation of the God of Avram. So the Gemara asks, Elokei Avram, Elokei V'loy Elokei Yitzchok v'Yaakov. We're calling them the nation of the God of Avram, and they're not called the nation of the God of Yitzchok and Yaakov. So rather, Ella, they're called the nation of the God of Avram, like Avram Shaya Tchila Legedrim, because he was the first of the Gerim, and so he would be called. In the Gerim are called Nadive Yamim. The Gerim are called the Nadive Yamim, and therefore, here we're talking. We say that it's Bas Nadiv, the daughter of Avram Avinu, who was the Tchila Legerim. He's called the Nadiv because the Gerim are called Nadive Yamim, and he was the first, and therefore we use that term that it's called Bas Nadiv. So basically, Mayafu Pamayach Bana Olim Bas Nadiv is referring to the Yidden that are Oila Regel, that they go up for the holidays to Beis Hamikdash, and they're called, when they do that, they're called the daughter of Avram Avinu, who's called the Nadiv. Now, and Avram also was Tchila Legerim. He chose to become a Yid, so to speak. Tana Dvei Rav Anon, it was taught in the base medrash of Rav Anon. What does it mean? The same pasuk that we expounded before, that it refers to before we said it refers to the Shisin, and now we're saying, so what is it? What does it refer to? That how beautiful are your Mayafu Pamayach Banamasidiv and Chamuke Yerechayach. Like, what is it referring to? What's another way of expounding it? So it's referring to the Torah, or the Luchais. The Luchais were the work Maisi Yadei Aman. They're the work of Hashem, the craftsman. So Lama Nimshalu Divrei Torah Ki Yarech. Why is Torah compared to the Yarech, the thigh? Loy Malach Ma Yarech B'Seiser, just like the thigh is in secret, so to speak, it's covered. Av Divrei Torah B'Seiser. Also, Torah is supposed to be in a more private setting. Learning in the marketplace is not exactly ideal for Torah. Rashi over here says, "Kavod haTorah is betzina." The honor of Torah is when it's done in a modest, in a hidden place, and the loyally Yoshev Hashain, and Rashi says not to be sitting and studying the Goiva Shalir on the height of the city, and not to teach your students in the marketplace. So it's supposed to be the Seiser, and it should be Chamukin, which means hidden, and like the Yerech, which is always covered, like the thigh, which is always covered. So Torah also should be that way. It's a question: if you send Divrei Torah, can you send it on a postcard? Based on this Gemara, it sounds like maybe it's supposed to be concealed. But maybe this just means learning in public. It doesn't mean the actual Divrei Torah in public, But Bahainu Dabar Rebbe Lazar, it used to be, people used to, It's famous. It's famous that people used to send postcards of Divrei Torah whenever they didn't have an answer. They would, in the previous generation, they would ask the Ragachav Gaon. How would they ask him? They would send a postcard with one side with their question, and then the other half he would fill out his answer. So people used to. It seems like it was a minhag to send a postcard. Divrei Torah. At least that's what they say, that people used to send him. I don't think he would give much of an answer. He would write sources. He would say, look at the Gemara here, page 22, and look at that Gemara, page 10. And look, he would just like. But anyway, our Gemara is saying that Torah is supposed to be beseser. Yes, we have to look it up. It's Rashi brings it from Moed Katan to exactly understand what the ramification, what the criteria of beseser is. What exactly does that? What Rashi uses not to learn b'shgoiva shel Iyar or b'shuk, but what is the what rules? What exactly are the rules? I guess we should look up the Gemara Moed Katan. I don't have it in front of me now, but maybe we'll try to look it up for tomorrow. What if there's any other clarity on that halacha, and if that's brought in halacha as well. Now, B'hainu damer Rebbe Elazar, my dachsiv higid l'cha adam ma'toiv u'ma Hashem derish mimcha. And this is what Rebbe Elazar said, that the pasuk in Micha, Hashem told a person, higid l'cha adam. Hashem told the adam, man, ma'toiv, what's good, u'ma Hashem derish mimcha, what Hashem wants from you. Kiyim asois mishpat, just to do justice, v'avas chesed, to love kindness, v'yatznei aleches, and to walk modestly im Elokecha, with your God. Asois mishpat zadin, to do justice, that means give a good, judgment, din Torah, and or to act in a proper way. Maybe it could mean both. Could mean a din, like to be a place to give a proper judgment, or it could mean that your ways should be to go b'derech hayashar v'hatoiv, like in the way of justice, and to act in justice and not to do anything that's against justice. In your actions, not just for a judge, but for anyone. Whenever you do things, make sure what you do is just. B'yavas chesed zug milas chasadim, love kindness. That refers to acts of kindness. Milas chasadim. And what else does Hashem ask from you? Doirish mimcha. It's v'atznei aleches im alekecha, to do things with modesty, do things in a modest way, walk with Hashem in a sneus. Zu haitzas hameis. This refers to a levaya, going to when you take out the mace to bury, in vehachnasas kala lechuppah, and when you enter a kala into the chuppah, that it should be done with sneus. Now, what does it mean, sneus? It means that when you give the hesped, when you give the Rashi over here. Let's read the Rashi. Zu haitzas hameis v'achnasas kala. Rashi over here must be about 30 lines from the top of the page. It says Zu haitzas hameis v'achnasas kala dachsiv behu leches. Where do you get? Where does the Gemara get that hatznei aleches refers to levayas and weddings? Where does the Gemara get that from? Hatznei aleches means to be tznius. Go with tznius. Go act act modestly, walk modestly. Where does the Gemara get this from? So Rashi says a levaya and a chasana both say the word leches. Where does it say leches? Toiv leches, o beis avel mileches al beis mishta. It's better to go to a house of mourning than to go to a wedding. Afsham tzarech hatzneya lisoid b'mida noya v'lasmech b'mida noya v'loy lahanik kalas reish ba'atzmai. So Rashi says that what is this Gemara telling us? That even in these places, like a wedding, don't act too. And on the side, it actually changes one of the words. Instead of lisoid, it's lispoid. To give a hesped, b'mida no'eh, properly, not to exaggerate when you give a hesped. When you give a eulogy, you don't exaggerate. And b'lismayach, b'mida no'eh, to rejoice with a properly, and not to act, not to be manikalis reish, lightheaded on with yourself. On yourself. In other words, don't overdo your don't go crazy with your rejoicing. Now, v'yesh aimrim, Rashi says, and some say tzarich levazves leitzos ameis ani elachnasis kala aniya. If you have to spend money for a poor mace mitzvah, like someone passed away and they're poor, or to help a poor kala bride get married, you should do it bitzina, in a private way, and don't tell people about it. And that's the way the Sheiltais explains this, that the Hitzas Ames, when you're paying for someone's levayo, you're paying for someone's wedding, you don't tell people about it. You should do it in a tznius way. So these are two pshatim. Now, the Gemara continues and says, the Gemara says that, one second, and then it says, and behold, it's a kal v'chomer. In other words, it's an a priori argument to other mitzvahs. Things that are normally done in public. The Torah says, be modest. Things that are normally done privately. Alachas kama v'kama, how much more so should you make sure to do it in a modest way, in a private way. And what does this mean? The same thing would be learning Torah, that it should be done in a private way. That's how the Gemara's connection with this statement. Now, if you think about it, how did we learn these two things? Achnasas kalai tzasa meis. So if it's referring to that they're supposed to be, these things are normally done publicly, and still the Torah says you should act private, you should do it in atznei aleches. Well, the simple understanding, I think, would be that these things are done publicly in a sense that everyone comes to it. It's public. So these things are done publicly. The Torah says, atznei aleches, don't over-exaggerate about the hesped, don't over-exaggerate about with your dancing, with your wild things. It's done in public, but still, you should still be somewhat atznei atznius. So then things that are done privately, like tzedakah, then for sure, how much more so it should be done privately. So that flows. But what about if you learn the other way? The second shot of Rashi. That if you're paying for the wedding and you're paying for the levaya, so what does the Gemara end off? That it's a kal v'chomer. These things are done publicly. The Torah says, be act private. Don't tell anyone. Things that are done in private, for sure, you should keep it private. Not exactly sure I see the flow as well. You know what I mean? Like these things are done publicly, and I should do it private. It's talking about money.
It's translating it different here. It's not translating as modest, but humble.
And does that help us? Does that really answer the problem?
Yeah, because then it can be private, but a person can still be humble. It doesn't matter if it's private or public, but a person can still be humble. Whereas modest is going on whether it's private or public.
So we're gonna say these things are done publicly, and the Torah says act humble, which means don't show off about these things are done publicly. Don't show off about your charity that you gave. So for sure, something that's done privately, for sure, you shouldn't show off about your tzedakah. Things that are done publicly don't show off about your tzedakah. So for sure, things done privately don't show off about keep it quiet, your tzedakah.
Not even don't show off, but don't feel other than humble. Show off means it's whether it's private or public. But a person could still be humble whether it's private or public.
Still act humble, yeah. To me, I just see the continuation of the Gemara seems to me to flow better with the first shot of Rashi than the second shot of Rashi. It just doesn't seem to be like the fact that you're not telling. Does it really make a difference if it's a public event if it's something done in public that you would tell people that you gave money to it? I mean, it's an event in public, but it's a private person's event. It's a wedding or it's a funeral. I mean, why would someone think that they would, tell people that they're the sponsor? And then if it's private, I paid for this guy's Shabbos meal. I mean, either way, I don't know that one is it's a kavachimer from one to the other. You get what I'm saying? When talking about charity, it seems like it all falls into the same concept of being modest. I don't see it so much as a kavachimer, something that's a public event. I paid for this wedding. Okay, I mean, I don't know if you would want to tell that to people. And then if it's private, I guess you're saying that since it's a community thing, since everyone's coming to it, I guess maybe you would think that you could say something about it, that you help pay for it because everyone in the community is coming. And then when you say I paid for that guy's Shabbos meal, so that's a private thing, for sure you shouldn't tell people about it. Okay.
Here it says, if in regard, how's this? It says, aren't these matters not a kal v'chomer? If with regards to matters that tend to be conducted in public, like the multitudes participate in funerals and weddings, the Torah says, walk humbly. Then it matters that
sounded like you had a good question over there. You're reading there that.
Yeah, I'm just reading what it says.
Oh, great.
It says,
good. Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah, it says, if with regards to matters that tend to be conducted in public, as the multitudes participate in funerals and weddings, the Torah says, walk humbly. Then in matters that tend to be conducted in private, like giving tzedakah and studying Torah, all the more so, they should be conducted privately.
So that's he doesn't really ask a question; he just explains it.
So things that are done public. The question is this not a kal v'chomer? It says the Gemara summarizes, are these things not kal v'chomer?
Yeah, no, that's the wording of the Gemara. Okay, fine, yeah.
He fills in the blanks in between the walk humbly and private and public. All the more so kal v'chomer, alachas kama v'kama. He's filling in the blanks.
I understand. So, right, okay, all right. Things that are done publicly, you should still be humble. So for sure, things that are done privately, you should be humble. Right. Now, it sounds fine if you don't start getting into the nitty gritty. Once you start getting into the nitty gritty details of what are we referring to, the first part is also talking about tzedakah, the parhesia, with things that are done in public, give money to, those things you should be humble. So for sure, things that are done privately, tzedakah, which is the same thing we just mentioned, tzedakah, but it's tzedakah private, tzedakah should be humble. So you should be humble about public tzedakah, about an event that's in public, a tzedakah that you gave for a public thing. For sure, you should be humble about an event, about a tzedakah that you gave in private. I guess I'm just uncomfortable with why would anyone tell people about their tzedakah for private things. I could understand, you sponsored a shul, you tell someone. To me, it just seems cruel almost to tell people, oh, I paid for this. What? I paid for this. This guy's Shabbos meal. I paid for the funeral. I don't know. It doesn't sound like it would be something that someone would want to do anyway. Why would someone, tell people about it? But okay, anyway, it deserves to be looked into. If any, maybe other commentaries might have to see if any commentaries talk about it. Amar Rabbi Elazar, we'll continue. Amar Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar said, doing tzedakah, doing charity is better than all the sacrifice. It says, that doing righteousness and justice, doing charity and justice is more of choice to Hashem than a sacrifice. And then Rebbe Elazar says, greater is Gemilas Chasadim more than charity. Gemilas Chasadim is acts of kindness. So like giving someone a ride and helping someone out when they need you, it says, Zero lechem l'tzedakah v'kitzur lefi chesed. How do you see that that chesed is better than tzedakah? Because when it talks about planting, we talk about tzedakah, use the term planting. It talks about chesed to use the term harvesting. And harvesting is a lot better than planting, because when you plant, you never know what's going to happen. It's going to grow, it's not going to grow. Maybe you'll eat from it, maybe you won't. Many things could happen and ruin it. When you harvest, then it's basically a done deal. You got it. So if chesed is considered like harvesting, it's a lot better than tzedakah, which is just considered like planting. Rabbi Elazar says another thing. The reward for tzedakah is only according to the amount of kindness that you put into the tzedakah. The toil, that the hardship. It says that you plant the mitzvah of tzedakah, but your reward that you harvest is according to the amount of chesed that was involved in it. That's how much you put into it. That's how much chesed. That's how much you get the reward. And three things: kindness is yosef, and tzedakah is greater than tzedakah. Acts of kindness are greater than just charity. Tzedakah is b'mamaynai. Charity is only with the money that you. When you do chesed to someone, so you could do it even if you're not giving money, but you could do it with your body. You could dance at a wedding, you participate in a funeral, you help someone out, you walk someone, you escort someone, you could help someone with a ride. So that's all gufay. And also it could be b'mamaynai with money by lending someone or lending someone money, lending someone your utensils. And now that's one difference. Tzedakah is laniyim. Charity is only a mitzvah to give to the poor. Gemilas chasadim, but helping someone when they're in need of some other type of favor, even if they're rich. It's bein laniyim, bein lashim. It's whether poor or rich. And tzedakah is l'chayim, Another difference is tzedakah is for the living, give charity. You can do an act of kindness. That's whether for the living and for those that have passed away. Okay, we're going to stop here. Sei gesund, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.